To grow the console market, Xbox is going to need to act more like PC. This is something that is echoed in today's article and interview. We're going to dive into this, dive into it. But I'm going to highlight a few quotes from Phil Spencer. Now, what makes this really exciting for me as an industry analyst here is that back in February, I talked about this exact very scenario where I think this is where Xbox is headed. It only makes sense. And just the TLDR is they're going to allow Steam and Epic and other game stores onto the Xbox platform, removing the console mindset and just treating it like what it is, a PC. Maybe more of a mid-range PC, but I do think this is exactly what we're signaling here. And to kind of highlight all of this, let's dive into the article itself. I got a couple of quotes, like I said, I'd like to highlight for you guys. Spencer told Polygon about the ways he'd like to break down the walled gardens that have historically limited players to making purchases through first-party stores tied onto each console. Now, this then brings up a lot, I think this adds a lot of context to the moves that they're making. I know there's a lot of diehard Xbox fans that feel betrayed that Microsoft is putting their games everywhere. And I've stated, I don't think they're getting out of hardware. I think that they're just going to be what they are, a Windows company. And whether they I think they're going to keep the Xbox brand from an SEO perspective alone, but that they're going to keep that and just basically integrate their kind of what they're good at into the system. And that's one of the big reasons why they're perfectly happy and will try and go and grab up as much IP as humanly possible. They continue on. They say, Polygon asks, was it a matter of figuring out mounds of paperwork just to get there? And Phil Spencer says, yes. Consider the history as Windows as a company. Nobody would blink twice if I said, hey, when you're using a PC, you get to decide the type of experience that you have by picking where to buy games. And there's real value in that. And so he goes on to talk more about Moore's Law and how it's slowed it down. This is actually where Moore's Law's second law kicks into play, where the cost of these parts and products and the hardware alone to get these gaps, that's also doubling. So power has doubled, but also the cost has doubled, and it's kind of hit a point where the market just doesn't actually have the base needed. Plus, he goes on, he says, worse, he's explained that the console market isn't actually growing, with more gamers moving to PC and handheld options. Now, this is a big pushback into some of the narrative that we see pushed online, where they say, no, console sales are growing, but they're factoring in the pro models of the systems, especially last generation, which when we talk about growth, it's not just about units sold, it's about players in the ecosystem, right? So I own multiple Switches, but I'm still one gamer. Now, thankfully, I share that with my kids, and that's helping kind of introduce them into the gaming ecosystem. And this is a big generational thing, which I've stated that multiple times and was even called out, because I was so happy Final Fantasy 14 is coming to Xbox that I screamed Phil Spencer, that all of a sudden now I've been saying this is a generational thing, and yes, both things are actually true. So that's exactly what is happening here. And the final quote I'd like to say is that in scrapping exclusivity on more and more Xbox games is the answer, what they're doing. And one of this sets up there's court cases going on right now, especially with Apple. There's a lot of moving things industry-wide that are all happening kind of ironically or oddly, coincidentally, all at the same time. Probably not ironic. I think I probably used the wrong term for that. But what we're talking about here is that if Xbox then goes and does what Phil Spencer has said in this interview, he wouldn't say this stuff willy-nilly. He wouldn't say this stuff if it wasn't the direction that they're going. And now the strength is, and the question that a lot of people will have, and this is what my video back in February touched on, but a whopping 411 of you watched this. Let's see if we can beat that in this video. How many likes did it get? 52 likes as well. So there's the challenge, guys. If we can get over 52 likes on this video, thank you very much. But the question is then, well, how do they make money? What really happens? And this is usually a question based off of fear, as opposed to look at how the market already functions, right? Players get access to the store. Now, the question would be is that would we see Microsoft subsidize their next Xbox? Maybe. There's still value in getting their devices in people's hands, and this also leads more credence to a handheld. Let's see. Yeah, I actually have one of that. So if consoles want to bring players back, they need to be more like PCs, is kind of the final quote. So when it's all said and done, I do think the leverage actually is all handing itself off in the back end. Right now, the general rate is 30%. Now, Epic cut their rate for developers to 15%. This is good for gamers because what will happen is that it will force these stores actually in more competition to be able to help court devs and help, kind of develop the games, but also maybe even be a little bit more price, competitive, right? If a game goes on sale on PlayStation and it might not be on sale on Xbox, like that's essentially kind of the idea here. And so this in and of itself, video games are this weird preferred monopoly, especially as it relates to IP. So we're seeing a massive shift in, basically what we would say is that it's no longer about the console wars, it's about the IP wars. Now, I have one tweet that I want to bring up from the ARM Economics. He says, quote me on this, "The age of hardware is over. The dawn of the operating system wars has begun." I think the operating system wars is really an interesting take. I still look at it as more the IP wars than anything else. But I think what we see here is that behind the scenes, at least the math on this one I think makes sense, is Microsoft has enough leveraging power. They can say, we're going to put our games on Steam and on Epic and on, wherever. And instead of the 30%, why don't you cut us a deal at 15%? And then we'll let you have access to our store and our buyers. One of the things that we've seen Steam struggle with time and time again is getting the Steam box, their hardware running and operating on televisions. What if that ended up just being solved by the Xbox, and thus you had Steam, thus you had your different stores, and this would also mean you'd have your PC games, assuming that the hardware can run it. If Microsoft does what Phil Spencer says that they're going to do, and what they're doing, then essentially you get to see that Xbox is a PC. And if you have a PC that just happens to be called an Xbox, you have your Sony PlayStation games right then and there. I really do hope that this is the future for consoles based off of just the numbers and everything we've been looking at, and whether you choose to believe them or not, whether you want to be a console warrior or not. This is just me continually to call it right. And at some point I might be wrong, and that'd be great because I think that would help my keep me humble here. But I'm just looking at the data. I'm looking at what is being said, and this is also being said by Sony, bringing more games to PC. The cost of doing business has gone up to an absurd amount, and thus here we are at a time where what the industry used to be isn't what the industry is turning into. And I think that there's going to be a grieving process that's going to happen for a lot of diehard gamers. But I think the good news about them is they're probably all in their 40s and up, where, again, the next generation is more interested in having a smartphone or a PC to play their games. And I've seen and witnessed this firsthand time and time again. But that's just a theory, a game theory. I had to do it as Pat's final episode, he wrapped up this month. Anyway, guys, I'm not here to waste your time. I appreciate you spending some time with me today, especially if you watched this video. I know these aren't my most popular videos, but I think that they're worth making and talking about. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. I also look forward to seeing the rest of everybody's analysis, especially those who said that I was wrong, and very much looking forward to that because it just makes sense. It's literally the easiest layup for Microsoft to make. Like, you know what? We're just Windows. And those games run on Windows. There you go. Everybody wins. Anyway, guys, love to hear your thoughts. Sound off in the comments. Jump into the Discord if you want to talk about it beyond this video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. But until then, take care.